So we are going to check out, and I have a feeling it's the creep factor is going to be severely mitigated given who is presenting it because chat, we are checking out Z Frank. And Z Frank is talking about fungi that control the insects that they eat. So it's Z Frank who is hilarious, but this is also about brain-eating fungi, which is creepy as fuck. So, yeah. Yeah, the Last of Us cordyceps fungi. So, I'm honestly really curious how he's going to make this amusing. Because Z Frank makes things funny. How is he going to make this amusing, chat? Let's find out.
This episode is sponsored by Brilliant. Learn to think. Now I'm going to tell you 3 stories.
Wait. True facts is not appropriate for children nor for adults who don't act like children. So it's good for no one? It did. Say Frank. This means it's good for no one. Okay, chat. Well, we gotta turn off the video. It's not appropriate for us.
3 stories about fungi that get a bit gnarly.
Oh,
but
God!
Before I do, let's try and see things from the perspective of the fungus. Here is a fungus baby, or spore, and one of the first things it needs to do is find food. So it often creates a...
No! Johnny! It said, nor is it for adults who don't act like children. It's for no one. No, it says it is not appropriate for children, nor for adults who don't act like children. Yeah, so it's for adults who act like children. Yep.
Or spore, and one of the first things it needs to do is find food. So it often creates a spore boner. Jerry, it's not called a spore boner. What is it? A germ tube? Really? All right, well, you can see the contents of the spore sort of oozing out in the germ tube, which tries to find
Interesting.
food. Now, like the Dorito, some food that fungi like to eat comes in packaging that's hard to open. So these germ tubes have evolved ways to break through barriers. Look at this one, busts right through the cell wall of a plant using chemicals and force. And once it's in, starts making a series of tubes that start munching. This right here is Nematoctonus, a bit of an unusual spore because it can swim with the aid of its spore boner. Jerry, it's a flagellum. Anyway, this fungus hunts these tiny worms called nematodes, which are everywhere. Here you can see a whole bunch of spores clustered around the nematode's anus. As is the custom, after attaching, you can see they make germ tubes that...
Wait. So this fungus is known for eating ass. This is an ass-eating fungus. Alrighty then. Is it? Rim Jobs, the origin story.
The nematode's anus. As is the custom, after attaching, you can see they make germ tubes that enter the body, and then the fungus can eat the nematode from the inside out. Remember, try and see things from the fungi's perspective. Once it's done eating, it's time to make some babies. Here you can see the spores being formed and then pushed out through those tubes. These spores can swim, and nematodes are plentiful, so the fungus doesn't have to get too fancy about how and where they're released. But most spores aren't particularly gifted in moving, so it's quite important that they wind up close to whatever it is they eat. Fungi have evolved a number of clever ways to get the spores to the right place, but perhaps the cleverest way is getting the food itself to help out. The genus Entomophthora, for example, likes to eat flies. These flies here are infected, but unlike that nematode, they're not dead yet. Entomophthora starts off as these specialized little spores called conidia, which are quite sticky, especially when they come in contact with the outside covering of a fly. Like before, they use a germ...
I would not be at all surprised if there has not already been research into weaponizing this. This would not surprise me in the slightest. In fact, I'm pretty sure outside of The Last of Us, there are probably actually several horror movies that have used... Actually, there is one. What is it called? Fuck, I can't think of the name of it. It's a horror movie that takes place in Russia, and they're doing like a geothermal drilling thing or something, and there's fungus. There's a fungal element in it that ends up possessing people, and the fungus is basically the horror monster. For the life of me, I can't remember what it's called, but like fungus is like, it's a horror movie. No, not Annihilation, Snark Monkey. Not bad. This is it's probably more B movie, although it was not, the production budget on it was good, and it takes place in Russia. But I can't remember. Yes, thank you, Eki. The Super Deep. Yes, that's what it is. The Super Deep. That's what it's called. And the fungus was the bad guy. I don't believe that fungus was utilized for invasion of the body snatchers. I don't think they were ever truly clear on what the alien. Yes, you're right, Chaos Hunter. That's where I saw it. I saw it on Roanoke's channel. That's where I saw it. Yep. But Hollywood aside, you have to imagine that the DoD, or DARPA, or someone has done experimentation with fungus to try to weaponize it. 100%. And I think we watched a video where it showed how I think it was the Japanese engineers used fungus to design their railway system. They literally used fungus to basically, because cordyceps will move in the most logical way to find food, and so they basically put fungus on a map and placed food where the stations would be, and where the cordyceps, they took the most logical course to get to the food, and that's how they designed their underground railroad system. And it's like the most efficient railroad system in the world. Yeah.
Tube to create a hole in the outside of the insect. The contents of the spore then go into the insect's blood or hemolymph. At first,
Wait. Flashed by too quick. I was trying to read that. 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours. Spores, holes, screwed. Well, that's one way to put it. Hard to see, though. Okay. I mean, you could see the exposure here. Okay.
At first, the fungus just nibbles a little bit, avoiding vital organs and targeting fat cells. Their backside starts to fill up with the fungus, which takes on a creamy white appearance. Nasty. But other than that, they seem fine, doing all the fly things that a fly do. But the fungus is up to something else. After about 48 hours or so, endomophthera cells start entering the fly's brain. As the number of cells in the brain increase, they seem to target a group of neurons involved in the fly's sleep-wake cycle, or circadian cycle. The science hippies know this because the fly's brain is small enough that they've been able to map it out in quite some detail. On the day the fly will die, just around sunset, and yes, fungi can tell time, it's crazy, those cells in the brain
because fungus also operates, if I'm not mistaken, fungus also operates on photosynthesis for some of its energy. While it does consume physical matter for sustenance, I believe fungus also operates utilizing photosynthesis for food as well. So it kind of does like a combo plan, whereas plants purely only use photosynthesis. Fungus use a combination of physical matter and photosynthesis. That's why fungus is a separate scientific designation than plant life. If you look at genus species designations, fungi are a completely different scientific category from plant life. They are completely separate. So they absolutely do know, fungi understands the concept of the rising and setting suns because of that.
To trigger the fly to release juvenile hormone. This in turn creates a burst of energy in the fly. Oddly, around the same time the fly stops flying. From here on in, don't call it a fly, call it a walk. Kill me. I mean, look at this poor bastard. Not only is he about to die, he's getting chased around by a giant paintbrush. All this hormone energy and the not flying seems to generally cause the fly to go up or summit. When it is suitably heighted, the fly then extends its mouthparts or proboscis. By now, the fly isn't in very good shape, so it's all a bit shaky. Now, they don't know who makes it, either the fly or the fungus, but this adhesive starts leaking out the proboscis, which glues the fly's mouthparts to the surface. And now the fly is stuck. With the fly...
Oh, this is horrifying. This is fucking horrifying. That in its death throes, the fly cannot fly, and then it basically extends the process and traps itself because it adheres itself to the surface it's on, and it can't escape. This is like horrifying.
Firmly in place, the fungus can now eat all the things that it's been patiently avoiding. Organs, the testes, you save those for last. And in one final manipulation, the fungus causes the fly to raise its wings to get them out of the way for what happens next. With its food source depleted, the fungus is now ready to make some babies. Here you can see it engulf what remains of the fly. And if you look close near the top, you can see the spores hitting the glass of the camera lens. The fungus creates...
Did you see that? Look, up here. Hang on, let me back it up. Unfortunately, I don't think the camera is going to be up high enough for us to actually see them start forming.
The fungus is now ready to make some babies.
Yeah, now you can see them forming.
See it engulf what
Did you see
remains
that?
of the fly.
You can actually see them appearing. Starting right here. You guys are kind of in the way, but you can kind of see right at the top here. Hang on. Boom, there's the first one. Might be hard to see. And then boom, 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 boom. Yeah, it's throwing spores as it's bursting out of it.
You can see it engulf what remains of the fly. And if you look close near the top, you can see the spores hitting the glass of the camera lens. The fungus creates these specialized structures.
And honestly, Aaron, gas mask might not help. These spores can punch through a lot. You don't think it could get through the filter of a gas mask? I bet it could. It might take time, but I don't think a gas mask would ultimately save you. I think the spores could actually get through it.
Structures called conidiophores. You can see them emerge here in silhouette. They're little stalks with spores on the end of them, which then get shot off by a liquid cannon, shooting those little sticky conidiospores in all directions.
Oh. Wow. Look at that. Holy fuck. All of these are spores. Holy shit. And by the way, like, even if it disintegrated the filter, unless you've protected every opening on your body and every millimeter of your skin, the spores can still attach to you. You literally have to, you cannot have even a nanometer of skin exposed. So yeah, so if you go full NBC, full mop suit, full BSL, you better pray to God that fucker's sealed.
And check this out. If the spore lands on a part of a fly that it can't infect, like a wing, it can create its own spore cannon and fire off another spore.
Oh, God!
Now imagine you're an uninfected fly in the area. These deadly spores popping off in all directions. I mean, it's pretty grim, but it actually gets worse. In the process of making these spores, compounds are secreted that are essentially sexual signals, causing other flies to come over and try to have sex with the corpse.
So not only is the fly dead, it's basically creating a mating hormone to attract other flies. That's fucking diabolical.
I know what you're thinking. What's so bad about that? Well, remember the sticky stuff that glued the mouth parts to the surface? Well, it didn't just come out the mouth parts. So if you try to have sex with this corpse, you get stuck to it. And now not only are you infected, but you've got some explaining to do when you go to work tomorrow. And you know Dave from accounting's gonna say something like, "Oh, looks like you had an interesting weekend." And you're like, "Yes, it was a nice weekend, Dave. Went antiquing, planted some herbs, f***ed a corpse, and did some light spring cleaning, thank you very much."
Jesus.
Dave. Listen, when these zombie fungi come for us, we're going to need the skills to fight back.
At time.
The kind of skills you can learn at brilliant.org. I mean, if movies have
God,
taught me anything,
we're only halfway through.
Suits, and that's complicated. Luckily, Brilliant has thousands of lessons, from foundational and advanced math to AI, data science, neural
This is
networks,
already
and more.
just terrifying right now,
Lessons
chat.
every month. If learning something new sounds
I'm gonna have nightmares, I think. I think I am going to have literal nightmares. I don't know how well I'm gonna be able to sleep now. I'm gonna be wondering, is there fungus in my room right now?
Playing chess by itself. Gonna make the flesh computers do all the work. This is the sort of learning that gives you a leg up, both in the workforce, but also in appreciating the world around you. To try everything Brilliant has to offer, free for a full 30 days.
Yeah, cowboy.
Brilliant.org/Frank. Or click on the link in the description. The first 200 of you will get
Yes, Aaron, they can.
Annual premium subscription. Brilliant is a long-time sponsor of True Facts.
Atanashi.
Today, where were we? Oh, right. Entomoptera is not the only genus of fungi that learned how to control the insects that they eat. Ophiocordyceps is perhaps one of the most well-known. It's a bit of a show-off, really. The genus eats all sorts of insects, but Ophiocordyceps unilateralis is particularly good at manipulating carpenter ants. The end of the infection is a lot like Entomoptera. The ant goes up, then its mouth parts are attached to a leaf or a twig, and then the fungus kills them and makes babies. The resulting ant looks a bit like Maleficent on a bad hair day. But how the fungus does it evolved independently and seems to be very different. For one, unlike Entomoptera, Ophiocordyceps cells don't enter the brain. They do, however, seem to secrete compounds that hijack the ant's central nervous system. Now, it can be hard to figure out what part the fungus is doing and what part is just the ant being really f***ing sick. But it's pretty clear as the infection spreads, the ant is a bit broken. It starts staggering around and convulses, which means that it falls. Would be very embarrassing for a healthy ant, but it's thought that this falling helps make sure that the ant doesn't get too far up in the trees, and instead will stay closer to the forest floor for what happens next. Now, on its final day, this wobbly ant goes out and finds itself a leaf or a twig above the forest floor. The fungus needs the ant to attach itself very firmly, but it doesn't use glue. This fungus takes over control of the ant's mouth parts. Here, this is crazy. This is what a healthy muscle cell in an ant's mandible looks like. You can even see the motor neurons coming in and connecting to it. And here's what the muscle looks like when it's infected. Those are fungal cells that have surrounded the muscle. But they don't just surround the muscle, the fungal cells start connecting to each other. And then some of them connect into the muscle itself. It's like a poorly knit sweater of fungus. If you slice through a section of the ant's jaw, you can see that the fungus is friggin' everywhere. So when it's time to get the ant to bite down, the fungus seems to be very much in control of the machinery. On a leaf, the bite is almost always around that center vein. And it's deep. Those are the bite marks. As the ant bites...
because the center vein on the leaf is the strongest part, so it's going to be able to attain a permanent grip on the fucking thing. It's not going to fall off. If he bites anywhere else in the leaf, structurally speaking, it could fall apart. So think about that, chat. The fungus has evolved to know the specific part of a leaf for an ant to bite down upon permanently, so it will not bite through the leaf and thus cause it to fall off. The fungus evolved to figure that out. Does that scare you? Because it fucking scares me.
The fungus destroys the muscle tissue, which makes it impossible for the ant to ever let go. At this height off the forest floor, the conditions are just right for the fungus to take its time. Over the next week or so, the fungus consumes what's left to be eaten, and then sends up a stalk or fruiting body from just behind the head. And from here, the spores are released, ready to find an ant of their own, to love and kill. Now here's the thing, those two stories were kind of nice, compared to this one. Fungi in the genus Massospora, which is a dad joke time bomb, have a taste for cicadas. Now, some cicadas are around every year, but some species only come up every 13 to 17 years, all at once.
Right.
And for a fungus...
Cheer 100. The fungus always knows.
Uh-huh. Trust the fungus. So, okay. So, chat, think about this. Remember that abomination that was the Super Mario Brothers movie? Not the animated one, the live action one with John Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins. What was everywhere? What was everywhere in that movie? What were they falling into? What were they getting covered in? What were they swinging from? It was all fungus. Imagine if the fungus king, by his very nature, was parasitic. Are you scared yet, chat? Is that is that changing your entire perspective? The original Mario movie? Yeah, Princess Daisy was fungus too. Technically speaking, yeah. Hoseki? Well, let's find out.
that likes to eat them, that's a buffet worth waiting for. For those 13 to 17 years, the cicada lives underground as a nymph. Spores of the fungus can also be found in that soil. And as these cicada nymphs begin to emerge, some of them are infected. Getting right to it, the fungus eats away the cicada's abdomen and sexual organs, which apparently they can live without. Then it creates a whole bunch of conidia spores, which form a sort of...
Oh my god, this cicada is missing its ass. The cicada is literally missing its ass because the fungus ate it. That is some straight up zombie shit right here. Holy fuck. K-Dog, the only idea I have right now is horrifying.
Plug back there. You could say their back end is a massospora. I told you. These little conidia are specially designed to quickly infect other cicadas. Now, you might think that having a half body riddled with fungus...
Oseki, quick question. The cicada that you saw that was walking funny, was it missing its ass? Could you see if it was missing its ass? If it was, yes, it was infected. It had the fungus.
This would be a bit of a red flag in the dating world. But the fungus has some tricks. Some species of massospora pump the cicada full of psilocybin, which is the hallucinogenic compound in magic mushrooms. And it also creates cathinone, which is a stimulant. So the infected cicadas are the life of the party. Todd, what happened to your ass? Who cares? Woo! The fungus also does something else that's quite sneaky. It somehow manipulates infected male cicadas into changing their mating call, which normally sounds like this.
What?
To sound like a female cicada, which sounds like this. I mean, the bottom line is that the fungus is able to trick a lot of cicadas into dry humping the conidia. And these little conidia start to infect their host's butt. Their host's butt in a different way. The fungus of these conidia-infected cicadas will also devour the abdomen and genitals of their hosts. But instead of creating more conidia and trying to infect even more adults, they fill up what used to be the abdomen with these thick-shelled spores. These infected cicadas act basically normal. However, in going about their business, they rain these thick-shelled spores down onto the ground below, where they will wait for another 13 to 17 years.
They're carriers. It turns these cicadas into a literal delivery system. Oh my god. This is fucking diabolical. Yeah. Incognito, it might be too big for the Discord.
Years to infect the next cycle. Yeah, so that's how they do it. It's so fucked up. I mean, it's hard to root for the fungus on this one.
Jesus, that
Really.
looks terrifying.
Athlete's foot is a fungus, do you know that? Eats keratin, which is in our skin and nails. And that's the scouting party. It's just a matter of time. I tell you what, I'm gonna cinch my pants real tight. Can't make my ass fall off. I mean, the movies get it all wrong. Zombies are just gonna be people all hopped up on mushrooms and cocaine trying to get you to hump a powder ball that ate their junk. No, it always looks like that. They got little sprinkles falling out the gaps in the short pants. And then one day you see him shimmy up a flagpole and attach by deep-throating that knob on top. Dave, what you doing up there? Oh. And then he just withers away. You know, make that into a movie. Call it The Last Ass of Us.
Oh, God. Jesus. Damn, Nature, you scary. You fucking scary, Mama Nature. Holy shit.